Some of you guys may be wondering why Jeff Ulbrich is a name that is all of a sudden circulating as the potential next defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. And it all starts with this article right here by Tim Kawakami of The Athletic. And as you guys remember yesterday, Tim got things moving in a sense when he put out on X or Twitter, whatever the heck you want to call it these days, that the 49ers are very close in signing and hiring their next defensive coordinator. So that got us back to the speculation train of, well, who's that going to be? Well, in an article that he put out today, he was asked that same question. Who do you think is the most realistic candidate to be the 49ers' next defensive coordinator? And he points to a name that hasn't been discussed at all, but all of a sudden, as it's been named and brought to kind of the forefront of our consciousness, we're actually like, yeah, it's not a bad idea. But we're going to talk about, again, the viability of this. Does this make sense for the San Francisco 49ers? Does this make sense for the team that is currently employing him? Let's take a look first at what Tim Kawakami says, and then we'll answer all those questions on the other side. So, starting with the article, again, this is Tim Kawakami in The Athletic, asked if what is the most realistic options or guesses. He goes on to say, my most realistic guesses offered on a couple of podcasts last week are Indianapolis defensive coordinator Gus Bradley or Jets DC Jeff Ulbrich. I'm not sure about either of their contractual situations, but I will continue to guess that Ulbrich, a former 49ers linebacker who remains close to many people inside the organization, would have the most motivation of those two to want this job. Would the Jets let him make a lateral move? I don't know, but I think there would be momentum for this if the 49ers and Ulbrich want it to happen. What makes Ulbrich my guest, just a guess, I don't see Shanahan and Lynch going the big name former head coach route. And I don't think that's what's happening now. More likely, it'll be somebody tied to the Seattle system. It'll be linebacker focused, and it'll be more of an up and comer than a legend grudgingly moving into assistant's role. I think Ulbrich, if the contractual complications can be ironed out, is the likeliest candidate. I'm not reporting it, I'm guessing it. If it's not Ulbrich, then maybe another Jet staffer, Marquand Emmanuel, or Texas linebackers coach Chris Kiffin. So this is why Ulbrich has become a name that plenty of 49er fans are talking about this morning. And again, as Tim Kawakami highlighted, he's a former 49er linebacker. He was drafted in the third round, 86th overall in the 2000 NFL draft out of Hawaii. And he played for the 49ers from 2000 to 2029. He only played with the 49ers throughout his career. And he was a pretty darn good linebacker with the San Francisco 49ers at that time. He also ended up, he is a California kid. Morgan Hill is where he went to high school. He attended San Jose State and then kind of landed and finished his career in Hawaii. But he's, like I said, he played in San Francisco. You can see his basically coaching resume. There's a ton of overlap here with Kyle Shanahan with the Atlanta Falcons. So when Kyle was the OC in Atlanta, you had Ulbrich as the linebackers coach. So not only are there ties to the team, but there's ties to Kyle Shanahan. And I think that is the most important thing. And then obviously, as you can see, he spent a lot of time with the Atlanta Falcons. He was the assistant head coach at one point, defensive coordinator at one point while coaching linebackers. So kind of similar to D'Amico Ryans in a sense. And then with the New York Jets, he's been the defensive coordinator since 2021. And so this is the thing is Ulbrich has led a phenomenal defense for the Jets since he's been there. And the question becomes, how does this make sense? How does it work? Because you can't hire away other coaches in a lateral move. So you can't take a defensive coordinator and just hire him to be a defensive coordinator for your team. That has to be something that is agreed upon within the New York Jets. Robert Saleh would have to say, "Yeah, that's fine. Go be free. If you love something, let it go." That's the kind of mentality is that it would be is does Robert Saleh say, "Yeah, Ulbrich, go with Kyle Shanahan"? And one of the things that I've kind of seen already is like, well, Robert Saleh is the defensive minded head coach. So he has final say on all the defensive things. And if he's coming over to the 49ers, then he's kind of like the head coach of the defense because Kyle's focused on the offense and all those different types of things. The only thing that I could rationalize as a promotion would be making him assistant head coach and the defensive coordinator, but I still don't even know if that is enough to I think that would still be considered a lateral move. So I would think for this to happen, and even again, the same name that was mentioned with Gus Bradley, both are current sitting defensive coordinators. So you would need compliance from the team to allow these guys to make a change. And if the Jets didn't make a change this offseason and go out and get one of these guys, I don't feel like they would want to be put in that situation, especially this close to the NFL draft, to just restart a defensive coordinator search. So I don't know the true viability of it. I love the thought process. I do. I think Ulbrich would be a phenomenal candidate for defensive coordinator for all the exact reasons that Tim Kawakami mentions. Linebacker coach, has had experience with being an assistant head coach with Atlanta. Obviously, ties to the organization, ties to Kyle Shanahan. It feels like a great fit. But again, he's not a free agent. He currently has a job as a defensive coordinator. So again, that would take some collaboration efforts between Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan to figure something out. I don't know if you could potentially trade for him. I don't know. Throw the New York Jets a third round pick for a DC that could potentially just get hired as head coach next year. So I think there are questions to be asked about the viability of this truly happening. However, if I had to give my 2 cents on it as it like being like something that would be welcomed, absolutely it would be welcomed. And, I'm not surprised that Tim also doesn't think that it's going to be a big name head coach that's going to come in and be a DC. I understand that thought process. And that's, like I've talked about this on previous videos as well. It's like we like the big names, but is that what's best for what they're doing internally? Perception versus their reality of talking and working with these guys is extremely different. So we as fans and from the outside looking in have a perception of these coaches, perception of what they do well, but in reality, unless you're in those coaching rooms, unless you're in those buildings, you don't really know. So that's the thing. We have the perception of the big names and what they bring to the table. But then there are guys like this who are definitely qualified that we're just not thinking of. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a name that gets announced that wasn't a front runner, per fans' perception, wasn't a front runner, wasn't a big name. Uh, Someone that's a little underrated from a perception standpoint. I could definitely see that. That's probably actually the most likely ranges of outcomes, but it is fascinating to see kind of the buzz pick up with Jeff Ulbrich. So, what do you think about the buzz? Do you think that it actually could happen? Do you think this could be our next defensive coordinator? Could they trade for this guy? What do you I don't have the answers for you. I'm just kind of telling you what I think and how I feel about it. But is there a path that he could be our next DC? I don't know. You let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.